Good morning, dear audience of Conflict and Resilience Research Institute Canada. Thank you for joining us for a Charting a Lasting Peace in Myanmar, a Global Affairs Canada funded initiative dedicated to supporting informed, inclusive pathways towards peace. Tonight's session carries special meaning. This is the 25th episode in our dialogue series, and it is also our final episode of the year 2025. So, on behalf of the organizing team, I thank you for staying with us across this journey through difficult questions, diverse perspectives, and the steady work of peace building. Before we formally begin, the audience, I would like to express our deep condolences on the passing of Bangladesh's first female Prime Minister, Begum Khaleda Zia, who passed away yesterday. And she was a spirited political leader whose life intersected with Bangladesh's long and complex walk towards democratic governance. Her passing creates a void, yet it can also serve as a reminder to all who believe in democratic principles that the work continues and that fortitude is not optional, rather, it is a responsibility. The audience, let me also offer a treaty and land acknowledgement. As we gather virtually, many of us are joining from different places. I'm speaking from Treaty 1 territory, and I acknowledge that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of Anishinaabe, Anishinaabeg, Dakota, Oete, Denisovan, and Netherwork nations, and that Manitoba is also located on the homeland of the Red River Metis. I offer this acknowledgement not as a formality but as recognition that peace building anywhere requires truth, memory, and respect for the rights and dignity of peoples. The audience turning now to Myanmar and to the urgency of this moment, hence the justification of our webinar. In recent days, Myanmar's military authorities began a phased national election process, an exercise that junta presents as a path to peace and a return to stability. Yet, many observers, international organizations, human rights groups, and significant segments of Myanmar's democratic and resistance movements have described these elections as fundamentally lacking credibility. But why? Because an election is not simply the act of casting a ballot. A credible election requires the basic conditions of political freedom, open competition, freedom of expression, impartial administration, and the ability of citizens to participate without fear. Myanmar today is still experiencing the realities of widespread conflict, displacement, repression, and restrictions on political participation. Large areas are affected by insecurity, and major political forces, including the legacy structures associated with the pre coup democratic government, have been constrained or excluded. This is why the word sham has appeared so frequently in international commentary, not as rhetoric, but as a reflection of the gap between the appearance of electoral process and the absence of democratic substance. In fact, international reactions have been pointed. United Nations voices have warned regional actors not to legitimize an electoral process designed to entrench military control rather than enable an inclusive transition. Western governments and rights organizations have raised alarms about the environment in which voting is taking place. And with ASEAN, there is renewed pressure to evaluate what, if anything, these elections change, especially in relation to ASEAN's own commitments under the 5 point consensus, which was meant to reduce violence and open space for dialogue. So, tonight we are not here to accept slogans about peace through elections. We are here to analyze realities and to ask the sharper question: what would a legitimate pathway to peace actually require in Myanmar, given the facts on the ground? This brings me to the purpose of our ongoing project. Charting a lasting peace in Myanmar is designed to contribute to peace not by pretending conflict is simple, but by building the conditions that make peace possible. Evidence based analysis, safe dialogue space, and practical policy and program insights that support inclusive approaches. The project is anchored in research and convening, and but it is ultimately about our people, particularly those voices are too often pushed to the margins during the political processes that claim to represent them. Over the past year, we have worked to create meaningful platforms for exchange across communities, borders, and professional sectors because Myanmar's crisis is not only political, it is humanitarian, regional, and deeply social. And importantly, we are not slowing down. I am pleased to share that we held 9 dialogues in November of this year in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and will continue this momentum in the new year with two more dialogue sessions scheduled in Bangladesh on January 6th and January 8th. These sessions are part of a longer arc of our work, connecting insights from academics, practitioners, civil society, and regional stakeholders. Looking ahead, what do we intend to do in this project to achieve? Ladies and gentlemen, we aim to contribute to a future where peace in Myanmar is not reduced to elite bargains or symbolic events, but rooted in inclusion, accountability, and institutional legitimacy. That means supporting thinking and policy that can help reduce violence and protect civilians, strengthen the credibility of any future political transition, ensure that dialogue is not performative but genuinely problem solving, and align regional and international engagement with the lived realities of Myanmar's people. If peace is the destination, then credibility, inclusion, and protection of human dignity are not optional values, they are the core infrastructure. For those who would like a clearer roadmap of our approach, I encourage you to review the revised concept note, which is available on our project website, https www.project.cric.org. It outlines the project's evolving framework, priorities, and planned outputs. The audience. Now to tonight's conversation and our distinguished speaker. It is my privilege to introduce Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed, PhD and MDC, who serves as a Principal Research Fellow at the Foundation of Strategic and Development Studies, in short, FSDS. And it's my honor also to read his very brief bio. The Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed is a military professional, academic, and strategic affairs specialist with over 5 decades of diverse leadership experience. He holds a PhD and MPhil in National Security Studies from Bangladesh University of Professionals, focusing respectively on Myanmar Bangladesh relations and strategic balance in South Asia. He also earned an MSc in Defense and Strategic Studies from Quaid-e-Azam University, Pakistan, complementing earlier military and academic training across Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Australia. Brigadier Shafat was commissioned in 1968 in Pakistan Army in the Corps of Artillery. He retired in 1993 from Bangladesh Army and served in progressively senior command and staff appointments. General Ahmed's research interests include South Asian strategic dynamics, civil military relations, defense policy, and Bangladesh Myanmar relations. His publications include peer reviewed articles, book chapters, policy essays in leading national and international platforms. And with this bit of introduction, let me welcome General Shafat Ahmed to the floor. And we are also very privileged to have with us this evening our founding advisor, David Gerald Newman. David, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate your energy and your presence that really encourages us, David, no doubt in it. So without further ado, Brigadier General Shafat Ahmed, floor is yours, sir. Go ahead and let me know when you want your slides to be up. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Kosa, for inviting me in this webinar. And it's my privilege that you've given me the chance to speak. I understand Myanmar is a very interesting topic. And interestingly, as I study, I find out that we know very little about Myanmar. The question is that you suggested me to speak on is the how much the leadership of Myanmar. There's always a question that why do the Myanmar leaders behave the way they behave? The question is why Myanmar leaders is often misunderstood. And to look into that, we need to go a little deep into Myanmar and its various aspects. So what I'll do today basically is I'll run through some facts, and I'll briefly cover some of the aspects of Myanmar society, Myanmar's population, etc., and their sort of strategic culture. And then from there, I will come to the leadership quality characteristics, etc., and see why. Automatically, we understand that why the Myanmar leaders behave in a particular manner. So, can I have this first slide, please? Thank you very much. Oh God, there is a. All right, fine. So the question is why Myanmar leaders is often misunderstood. The persistent international misunderstanding of Myanmar's contemporary leadership are not merely from normative disagreement, but from fundamental divergence of the state logic. Now, while external actors, particularly Western governments and international institutions, evaluate Myanmar through liberal democratic benchmarks, while Myanmar's ruling elite, dominated by the military institution, that is Tatmadaw, uh, within they deal with the subject within a security-centered preservation paradigm and historical experience, along with institutional ideology and perceived existential threat. Now, this existential threat that I'm talking of is of very importance here. We'll come to that. Now, Myanmar's leadership are, is deeply conditioned by the country's post-independent political trajectory. Now, these are the three aspects that affect them is state formation under fragmentation. I'll explain later on. And then colonial and Cold War era experience, then self-assigned guardianship of the military. As a result, Myanmar's military interpret political pluralism, ethnic autonomy, and external pressure primarily through the lens of security risk rather than democratic consideration. Now, understanding Myanmar's leadership logic required beyond moral condemnation, regime type labeling, and institutional realism. Myanmar's leaders behave in inconsistent authority to look feel so, but then they look at the security maximizing operating under perceived threat conditions and a permanent vulnerability that they perceive. Now, coming to Myanmar a little bit, it's a very unique country. I don't know how many of you have been there. I'll read out some of the comments, and that will show exactly why Myanmar is like this. But I ask you a question to the audience. What is your opinion about Myanmar? What sort of country is it? How much do you really know about Myanmar? Its terrain, its populace, the people, the culture, and the traditions. These are things which affect the leadership, their behavior, their uh, actions and reactions. Now, today what I'll do is I'll look into some critical aspects of Myanmar, which will include a little bit of historical experience, strategic culture, political culture, and praetorianism, a subject which is very old but not discussed much because it is not affecting much of the Western world. And even in Asia, there are very few countries where this particular aspect is found. Now, some of the comments that I have found out as it is interesting is this comment is by the grandson of Mr. U Thant, was the I think second or third. He was the third UN Secretary General of the United Nations from Burma, Mr. U Thant, who had been initially he was secretary to Mr. Unu, who was the first Prime Minister of Myanmar, Burma then at the time. He writes, the most striking aspect of Burma debate today is the absence of nuance and singularly a historical nature. Nationalism and xenophobia, the Burmese nationalism and xenophobia, and the ethnic insurgency and the military dictatorship, and the failure and of the successive governments to keep pace with the rest of increasing peaceful, prosperous Asia. All these have a history and a reason. It emerges from these histories an answer to all of today's problems. It is not the end, it is the beginning to understand Myanmar. Similarly, Myanmar, if you look at it, Myanmar is blessed with abundant natural resources, including oil, gas, and gems. It used to be known as the rice bowl of Asia. And after independence in early 50s, Myanmar, then Burma, used to be treated to be one of the countries which would have become an economic giant. But unfortunately, today Myanmar is treated as one of the least developed countries. Now Myanmar has problem. Myanmar features many problems like in multicultural society with its 135 groups, ethnic groups. It is a cultural tapestry that is very rarely understood and complex. This has been complicated by the country's porous border region, which were arbitrarily determined by the colonial ruler. To the outside world, Myanmar is still a closed oblique book. Myanmar is known for its insurgencies, drug trafficking, and its harsh military dictatorship. But in reality, Myanmar is not a failed democracy. It is a military managed political order. Leadership outcomes are constrained more by the structure rather than personalities. Myanmar leaders are misunderstood by the world. This comes from a mix of structure, historical, political, and communicative gaps. Now, I'll look into the historical aspect a little bit. Now, historically, if you go in the early ages, initially Burma, which is today, is Burma composed of the Irrawaddy Valley and the peripheral states, which are inhabited by various tribes or groups. Now, early Burman kings used to rule from Mandalay. That was their capital. And the Irrawaddy Valley was the main Burma that was. And the other peripheral states or the tribes, they used to show their allegiance to the Burman kings. During the 9th century, Pagan dynasty had united entire Burma along with these peripheral state tribes and formed into a very formidable country. In 13th century, the Mongols came and raided Burma, and then it got split up again. Again in 16th century, uh, it was again united, and it became one of the largest empire in Southeast Asia. As a matter of fact, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and part of Vietnam all were under control of the Burman kings. At one stage, one of the Burman king ventured into then British India. Mainly the problem is to be around Nagaland and Manipur region, because there were tribes who inhabit both in Indian side and the Burman side. Now, one of the Burman king at that in early 19th century, he went and raided part of Manipur, Nagaland, and the British reacted and they started invading Burma. So that's how it started the Anglo-Burman Wars in the 19th century. So British occupied Burma in three phases. First, it was the Lower Burma, That was done in 1823-24. And then in 1852 to 55, they occupied the Middle Burma, which included Mandalay, part of Mandalay. And finally, in 1885, the entire Burma was brought under the British occupation. Now, this has a very telling effect on the Burmese society and people. British Britishers by then had tackled the Indian Mutiny in 1857-58, so they did not want to take any chance in Burma. They made Burma a province of India, and they virtually removed all Burmans from the administration, took the Indians and British officers from India to administer Burma. Now, this had a very big impact on the society, the Burmese society. Okay, now as a result, what happened? There was growing anti-British feeling as well as anti-immigrant feeling. Now, Dr. Kausa would be knowing the famous Bengali novelist Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay. He had gone to Rangoon. He had served there. Once he served in Burmese Railway and once in the probably in the postal department. As a matter of his writing started from there. He even married one of the Burmese girls at one time. So that is how the occupation continued, and it affected the Burmese social fiber. I'll come to that later on. In the meantime, there has been invasion or armed incursion within Burma. As I said, the Mongols invaded Burma in around end of the 13th century. This was followed by invasion by China. Then Thailand invaded Burma at one stage. The Indians had, through the British, they had gone and invaded. These are the things which had impacted upon the psychology as well as the social fiber of Myanmar, then known as Burma. With China, there's a very distinctive thing. The Chinese came, occupied, but they didn't stay. They left, and that's how they became very good friends. As a matter of fact, the Burmese kings used to send gifts, yearly gift to the Chinese emperors. And from then onward, the Chinese and the Burmese or the Myanmars have become very close. As a matter of fact, they call themselves Pekpo, or there's a word which means close brother. So that relation developed through ages. Now, finally, when the Japanese invaded Burma, occupied it, and initially they had promised and also declared Burma to be an independent country, but the Burmese people found out that that was a hoax. In reality, the Japanese were carrying out their normal activities. So this, along with the after independence, again there was incursion. Firstly, the Kuomintang forces, KMT, after they are driven by the communists from China, they came and occupied part of northeastern Myanmar with the support of the US forces. So that had created a very adverse impact on the Burmese administration, Burmese politician, and Burmese society overall. Then there have been border skirmishes with the Thailand. As late as in 2010, also there was a clash between the Thai and the Burmese. And then persistent insurgency, which is still going on. Now, coming to strategic culture. Now, this is a new subject, as a matter of fact. The study of strategic culture started only in late 20th century, around in the mid 70s, that the Americans started studying strategic culture. And this has become a very interesting subject, and is a subject which is very essential for the leaders to understand. Now, geography, historical experience, political culture, along with religious beliefs are the that create a strategic culture of a state. Strategic culture provides a state with the identity that defines self-image and also their worldview, how they perceive others. So that is what strategic culture is. That's how it affects the political leaders. Now, if you look at the strategic culture of Myanmar, I found out few things. Firstly, the fear of disintegration. There is a distinct fear among the leaders and elites of Myanmar that their country will be disintegrated. Then obsession with one nation, one religion, and one language. As I told you, remember that there are 135 accepted. As a matter of fact, there are more than 200 tribes or ethnic groups in Myanmar. The government actually accepts or recognizes 135. Like Rohingyas are not accepted by the recognized by the Myanmar or the Burmese authorities, but they are a group living in Myanmar. Then is xenophobia, the fear of being attacked or invaded. All this thing has created a nationalism tainted with ultra religiosity. I'll come to that, how religion plays a part in Burma. Now, fear of disintegration has come yet right into the Myanmar's constitution. The latest constitution, which was promulgated in 2008, on which the country is being run, which is made by the military and are being controlled by the military, which gives immense power to the military in Burma, in Myanmar. Now, in that, three things that are very interesting. One is non-disintegration of the union. Second is the non-disintegration of the solidarity, union solidarity, and perpetuation of sovereignty. They feel that the Westerners or the outsiders will occupy Myanmar and probably make it their colony again. And this is the theory on which the military is also working. Now, coming to political culture, the authoritarian traditions of the kings has filtered into the post-independent Burma also. On independence, power did not fail not to the old politician, but to a group known as Thakins. Thakins are the young group, mostly they're students to start with, of which Aung San, they're all part of Thakins. So it on them, because this group had taken over the power and administration of Myanmar, not the old political leaders who had been with the politics prior to the independence. Now, these Thakins have developed a sort of philosophy which has affected the present leadership also. Then the fallout of the 1962 military coup, which ousted the elected government of Mr. Unu, that had a very far-reaching effect. The military came in and they have stayed till now. Any study of Myanmar's culture will be incomplete unless you know about Tatmadaw or military's influence on the Myanmar society, which is absolute. As a matter of fact, Tatmadaw is known as the mother and father of the people. They behave as if they are the guardians of the country. It has completely controlled avenues of social mobility. Any social mobility in Myanmar is virtually controlled by the military. Now, there's another word which comes in is Praetorianism, which is a very old concept, but this is a political science, but this has become a dominant political thing in Myanmar. It means that the military is intervening directly or indirectly in the civil governance of the country, where probably civil institutions are weak, fragile, or lack legitimacy. Now, from this, The training regime that has gone into the administrative system as well as the military is the philosophy of Thakins. Now, their core philosophy is firstly that anti-colonial nationalism. The anti-colonial nationalism which was developed in the pre-independence days has continued till now. Then culture and civilization revival. That time we revived the old culture, old civilization. And socialism and economic nationalism. Now, this is it's been seen that because of the unruly and chaotic political activities during the time of independence, and a fragmented and polarized civil society gave rise to the priorities. Now, what happened is the compared to the civil society and the political polarized political field, the military was a group who were well disciplined and unified. Now, interestingly, there's one very interesting thing. The father of modern Myanmar or Burma, Mr. Aung San Suu Kyi's father, and it's very interesting. He was just a student when he joined the movement, and as a matter took the leadership. He was a law student in Rangoon University, and then from there he became and he was a literally secretary of the Rangoon University Students Union, student organization, and from there he took the leadership. It's only at the age of 32 he was, I think he was when he was killed, he was 34. At the age of 32, he had formulated many things. So he writes, his philosophy was there shall be only one nation, one state, one party. There shall be no parliamentary opposition, no nonsense individualism. Everyone should submit to the state which is supreme over individual. Now, this thing about one nation, one language, and one religion is the theme on which the present Myanmar and civil society, the elites, the military are based. Now, one of the most significant and far-reaching development in Myanmar has been the rise of Buddhism as a cultural and political force. There is a saying that to be a Burman is to be Buddhist. Unless you're a Buddhist, you can't be a Burman. The monks are highly revered in Myanmar. Most of the Burmese seek solace through spiritual practices. They use numerology, astrology, advice of the fortune teller to try to ensure success. And I'll come and give some of the examples. Believe in astrology, palmistry, palm reading, fortune telling, number predictions, and soothsaying, all of which are totally contrary to the Buddhist religion, religious thoughts. Buddhist teaching has become part of the Burmese life. Now, interestingly, the ordinary Burmese, as well as the elites of the society, inclined to, including the senior generals, use number of numerical astrology and the advice of fortune tellers to ensure success. Now, I'll give a few examples. Interestingly, the proclamation of the independence of Burma, the date and time was fixed by the fortune teller. The announcement was made at 4 a.m. in the morning because the fortune tellers conveyed that that is the right time. So based on that, it was done at 4 a.m. And as I read in the book, that the Governor General and his daughter who was present there, they had to keep awake the whole night to attend the ceremony. Similarly, General Ne Win, who ruled the country for the maximum years, was 26 years, you could to say. Now, he is a firm believer in astrology and this sort of thing. There have been many incidences that are known about Mr. Nguyen's belief in these things. Like, for example, there was one incident that somebody said that the road which led to his ancestral home, there are a line of trees on the both sides of the road. Now, some astrologer told him that you must cut all those trees, otherwise there is a chance, fear of your life. Or there is a threat on your life. So he cut all the trees. And the astrologer told him that shoot yourself in the mirror. He did that. He changed the coining system. Like in our case, we use decimal system of tens and hundreds. So he made it in nines because somebody said that nine is the lucky figure for him. So it is still being used. If you visit Myanmar, you can see the use of this fortune telling, the astrology and numerology. These un-Buddhist beliefs and practices have permeated right into the Burmese society. In the time and date, as I said, of the independence was decided by them. Now, with that background, I'll come to the leaders who have ruled Myanmar. If you see this slide, I don't know whether Kaushal is showing the slides or not. Uh, there is a slide which gives a list of leaders of Myanmar. Now, I have the list here. The first was Mr. Unu. He was elected leader. And now, interestingly, Mr. Unu was not the person to be the Prime Minister of Burma. Already prior to the independence, there was a governor council. In that governor's council, Mr. Aung San was the prime minister, and he had a cabinet already. But because of internal strife between the groups, there was an old politician. I'm forgetting his name. He did not. He thought that he will become the prime minister, as he could not. So, in one occasion, uh, on a Sunday, when Mr. Aung San was having a cabinet meeting in his office, the 8 of them were killed, including other 7 ministers and a bodyguard of Mr. Abdul Razak, who was Minister of Education in the Aung San cabinet. Interestingly, Mr. Unu was supposed to be there, but then he suddenly had uh, fever, and as a result, he could not attend that meeting. That's how he got sick, and he became the prime minister at the time. So after Unu, he took he was initially from 1960 to 62, and then from 1958 to 60, first 2 years, and then from 62 till 1988, he was the ruler of Myanmar. Prior to that, Mr. Unu had been the prime minister from 48 to 58. In between, Mr. Unu had called the military to take over for a time being as a caretaker government because of the internal condition in the Myanmar was law and order was deteriorating for 2 years. After which, General Nguyen was the man. He took over as caretaker prime minister. They gave election, and in that election, Mr. Unu came back to power. But then, after 2 years, in 1960 election, he came to power. 1962, there was a coup took place, and Mr. General Nguyen took over the power, and he continued till 1988. And from 88, after General Nguyen, was General Saw Mom, who was there from 1988 to 1992. Then we had General Tan Siu from 1992 to 2011, and then General Thien Sin from 2011 to 2016. Then came Aung San Suu Kyi from 2016 to 2021, and finally, after the coup in 21, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing has become president of Myanmar. Now, I have divided these leaders into three archetypes. First is the civilian leaders who are trained earlier on. As a matter of fact, they are Thakins, which included Mr. Unu and Aung San. Both were Thakin, both were students of Rangoon University. Both took part in the independence movement. As a matter of fact, there was a group which was known as 30 Comrades who had gone to Japan and got training, military training. Although Aung San is known as General Aung San by Yog, but then he did not have any formal military training. Similarly, General Ne Win did not have any formal military training. They were trained for very short, for about a month, by the Japanese, somewhere in Taiwan, probably. The second is the military leaders, generals, who had been there from 1962 till 2016. And then we have the hybrid type when we have the Aung San Suu Kyi. Now, these three types of leaders, very interesting. The first group, that is the civilian UNO as well as Aung San, both were democratically elected, and they had the symbolic authority to them. They had legitimacy, but they had very weak control over the coercive instruments. Because of the various factors, which I'll not dwell here, they did not have thus of control or authority that which should have been. Then we have the second type of leaders who are the military guardian leaders. Because in patriotism, there is two. One is ruler type, other is the guardian type. So they acted as guardian type. They portrayed that the Myanmar military is the guardian of the people of Myanmar. Now, they did not have electoral legitimacy, but they had institutional legitimacy. The power was with them. Then, to them, the security was the first. And they have deep suspicion of pluralism. They did not believe in pluralism. The third group is the hybrid managers, I've taught them, which includes General Thien Sin, although he was a general, but then it is he who first started opening up Myanmar in 2011. Slowly and gradually, he allowed, they changed as a matter of fact, the military wanted to have a try with the openness. They came to come out of the isolation and allow the Western world to enter and to have a flow of non-Chinese investment in Myanmar. And then we had Aung San Suu Kyi. Now, for them, electoral politics without sovereignty. They were elected through the normal election, but the authority lies with the military because of the 2008 Constitution. The Constitution gives absolute power to the military. They have, in the parliament, they have 25% seat reserved for the military, nominated by the military high command in both the houses of parliament. So any change that you have to bring out has to be passed by more than 75% votes. So 25% is with the military. And they're serving officers from the three services who sit in the parliament. Then civil military bargaining. Civilians have to really bargain with the military to get something out of it. And finally, controlled openness. They allowed the media and the other thing to open up, but in a controlled manner. So, not a transition, but they managed it. The Constitution was their insurance because Constitution provided them the legality, the legitimacy, as for the military, the power to wield so that they could control the country. System worked. until the civilians tried to transgress into the military's domain. As you know, the reason for the 2021 coup, because there was a fear in the mind of the military that NLD had won absolute majority. As a matter of fact, with landslide victory, with their absolute majority, they would have probably pushed through for changes in the constitution. Similarly, in 1962 also, the coup took place because on that particular day, there was supposed to be a meeting of all the states, peripheral states, because the difference was the military wanted a unitary state, whereas the civilian politicians wanted a federalism, which the military did not accept. Because the fear in the mind of the military was that if the federal system is brought in, then these peripheral states might secede and become independent to get out of the Myanmar union. Now, little bit of that background. What is the central argument? Why Myanmar leadership is often misunderstood? Now, as I said, the leaders are guided, even the military and the civilian leaders and the elites are guided by the Aung San philosophy, as I said, one state, no opposition, and you have to be completely submissive to the state. Outsiders focus on personality. That is a problem, not an institution. Myanmar operates through an institution, fears, and historical memory. In Myanmar, leadership changes, but authority remains. Real power lies where coercion, identity, and legitimacy lies. Understanding leadership requires understanding the strategic culture of Myanmar as well as the Myanmar military. The Tatmadar's worldview, the worldview of the military. Incidentally, I had the chance or scope to sit with the members of some of the members of the Veterans Association that they have. We're trying to sort of work on the Rohingya crisis. So we have seen their views, their attitude towards the worldview. Then the first, and the foremost thing in their mind is the fear of state disintegration, the myth of guardianship of the military. So, how the leaders actually think, or what is the mindset? To them, to the Myanmar leaders, unity before liberty, control before consent, sovereignty before reputation. Leaders fear fragmentation, so they accept isolation. International criticism is taken to be a sort of siege mentality. The military regime has been using xenophobia to legalize their hold on to power, and rise of xenophobic nationalism, which provokes a powerful political institution for the military regimes to continue. Xenophobia has become a Myanmar's part of Myanmar's culture through their schooling, indoctrination program, and the historical experience. All have had an impact on the thinking of the Myanmar rulers, the civil elites, as well as the military elites. It is not that Myanmar's leaders do not understand democracy, human rights, or international expectation. It is that they operate within a system where the fear of fragmentation is the utmost, and historical context outweighs all other considerations.
Sir,
So,
yeah, sir,
gentlemen, thank you very much.
yeah,
There
me too.
I
Thank you.
come to the end of my little talk. Uh,
Thank you.
if there's any question, I'll surely answer.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think we have a very broad overview of the culture of the society and especially the leadership. And I think most fascinating point what General Shafat brought today is the types of leadership that he has observed in Myanmar and how they behave, psychologically. And this is one of the very least explored areas, and that triggered my imagination when I was chatting with him in Bangladesh in November. That how we understand the leadership well, because at the end of the day, we ought to talk to them whatsoever, because they're the ruler of the countries. Dear audience, we don't have a lot of time left, according to our estimate. However, let's have a brief Q&A session. And David, as usually, I'll go back to you first. If you're okay speaking, you might, come forward now and have your question.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Very interesting talk. It leads to my question. It appears that, a country like Canada coming in and trying to contribute to solutions, it's a non-starter to effectively suggest a form of government. It's a non-starter to talk about human rights. It's a non-starter really to do anything except speak to the needs for the leadership with the current philosophy and the prevalent philosophy of the majority of indoctrinated people. And I don't mean that in any other than saying that that's simply how people have been brought up. Is the approach towards contributing to a peace, order, and good government by a country like Canada really to come in and say, what do you need to be effective guardians of your people and your sovereign state? And if I were to ask that question of a rational, enlightened, but passionate guardian, what answer would you anticipate that leader of the junta would provide?
Thank you very much for the question. Very interesting. My personal experience, as we discussed with them, at one stage we proposed that there should be people-to-people talk between the Rohingyas and the Rakhine Buddhists. After all, they will be able to live together. So it took them almost 2 months to go, and from we used to sit in Singapore through one of the international NGOs. Now they took time from us. They went, discussed, they deliberated upon it, and they kept asking many questions. Who will come? Why will they come? Why should they? What is the need? We do not want extra people to go. Now, the moment you offer them something, the first thing they suspect, why are you trying to help him or help them? This sort of attitude is there. Because there have been many occasions, like with Bangladesh, there are about 40 MOUs have been signed between Bangladesh and Myanmar. But none of them had been effective. Because the moment we start working, they think of that probably will go and try to settle there or try to influence their people. Now, the fear is so much there. I give you an example. I went to their UNDP office to collect some material for my research. I was given reference from the UNDP in Dhaka. The lady who was there, she just came out. She did not take me inside and handed me some pamphlets and books. I said, hey, can I ask you some question? She very politely refused. Similarly, I had a session in Rangoon University in International Relations Department. The moment I asked them a question regarding the non-Buddhists, and the head of the department who was sitting there, he very quietly said, General, I have a class, so I have to go. She refused, she sort of bypassed the question, left it to one of the junior lecturer who said, "Sir, I cannot answer." So that's the thing. You see, the problem with them is that the moment we approach them, they think that what is your intention? Why do you want to come here? Because similarly, Dr. Kosa knows when the proposal we are talking about that they will try to help the Myanmar's people, the economic condition that they're passing through, they do need help. But then they will not allow property because it will take time. The Japanese are working there. Yes, they accept Japanese because they have developed a relationship in a long time. You may be able to talk to them, but it will take time. Number of sitting to convince them. They will get once they're convinced that yes, you do not have any other ulterior motive and you are sincere. Probably you're going to help them. They might accept. But otherwise, in the first instance, it will be very difficult to get any positive answer from them. I hope that partially satisfies you, sir.
Thank you so much. The audience, we also have Dr. Isharaf Hussain with us. Dr. Isharaf, do you want to join the discussion a bit with the Brigadier Shafat's points? Do you have anything to add, Dr. Isharaf? Can you unmute the yeah? Can you unmute the mic, Dr. Isharaf?
I think he's been having problem.
Oh, okay. Um, Before, as Dr. Isharaf can take care of his microphone, Brigadier Shafat, I have
Yes.
just maybe a very minor type of question with regards to the future. So, what do you see? How do you really bring a change into their psyche? Because any kind of negotiation would demand some sacrifices from their end as well. And if in the peace treaty discussions, if ethnic armed groups, those who are fighting for their self determination, and if they guarantee that they are not seeking secession from the Union of Myanmar, rather they are just seeking, let's say, limited autonomy, like the way we have in Canada. Our provinces are kind of semi-independent in terms of ruling their affairs, except 4 or 5 key portfolios like defense, international affairs, finance, and others. So, um, if this can be discussed do you think there is a chance Myanmar military might understand and they can it can stave off their fear of disintegration?
Uh, I thank you, Dr. Kosa. I really do not think because if you look at the present current situation, the seven peripheral states that they have, these states, they are not seeking independence. They are talking of autonomy. As a matter of fact, they have autonomy. The like Wa have their own army, they have their own military academy, they have their own currency. All these states, they have their own administration going on. The problem is that Myanmar military's involvement in the economic affair of Myanmar has created biggest problem. Now, if you want to do business, the saying is that if you want to do business, you must know a general in Myanmar. One. Secondly, the generals are mostly involved in the gem business. Similarly, by now, what has happened, the people understood that for their survival, they need to have people in the military. There's hardly any family in Myanmar whose representative is not there in the military in some form or other. Because within this, because of this previous 6, 7 decades of military rule, the people have also got accustomed to it. So it will be very, very difficult to really go and offer them something. Probably you can start by normal visit, etc. And like for example, they do not advocate much of cultural exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, I give one particular example. Now there was a general who, I think it's a General Him. His son married a Burmese born in Singapore and brought up there, and that became his problem because they somehow or other they have created a system whereby the foreigners are not simply allowed to enter the community.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go there, the rich people are somewhat who are probably filthy rich. They have if you go to Rangoon, the malls are filled up with all foreign goods. The people have money, those who are in business, who have their link. So the society is like that. And another thing is that the Myanmar society is woman dominated. This is a very peculiar thing. The men's they tend to sort of stay away from work to some extent. Now, why they have the reason why they detest Muslims is because there's a tendency among the Burmese or Myanmar's girls to marry Muslims because of the social system. Because in that the man is the bread earner, so the female can probably consider more of the homemaking. Well, these sort of things are there which are affecting. But you can make a try, but you have to take a very long what do you call long time project, slowly
Thank you.
and gradually.
Thank you, sir. No, absolutely. It's better to understand the nuances of this. So we are at the end, and Dr. Isharaf has decided to stay behind today. Thank you, Dr. Isharaf. But we would like to express our gratitude for having you today. Maybe next time we can discuss. Oh, your mic is working.
Just, just I would like to thanks to all of you and congratulations. Yeah, now it's okay. But I would like to thanks to you firstly for arranging this excellent discussion. Secondly, I would like to also give thanks to our senior colleague Dr. Shafayat for presenting very nice historical discussion, and I have received very good point from the discussion that will help us to lead to solve the crisis of Rohingya in Bangladesh with Myanmar. Thank you very much for your kind arrangement.
Thank you, Dr. Isharaf. Dr. Isharaf is the Secretary General of the FSDS, and he is basically based out of Kuala Lumpur. And the audience,
এই
we have MOU with the organization, and this is how we intend to closely work together. So we are going to end the session within a couple of minutes now. Nonetheless, Brigadier Shafat, I do have I've received an interesting question. Um, I think I am going to show it up here. Someone is trying to understand from the audience, and I'm reading out it for you. This constant apprehension of disintegration through foreign intervention, how has it affected its foreign relationship, especially the one with the US under Trump? So just kindly be very brief, sir, in your remarks so that we can close in time. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, this is not probably all because with the Obama administration, President Obama had visited Myanmar after the 2000, I think, I've forgotten the year. But then Trump, during his first tenure, he was almost neglected Myanmar. And as a matter of fact, there is not much communication, or I would say movement between directly, or openly probably, between the USA and Myanmar. And Myanmar government is not also very keen to move much forward in the improving relation with with USA.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. The audience, we would like to express our gratitude to Brigadier General Judge Shafat Ahmed for his time and his insights. As you understand, he's a veteran, and he spent physically, he spent a lot of time inside Myanmar in the past, and even recently, talking about Rohingya crisis resolution. So I thought it is prudent to bring him and listen from his experience firsthand. What is the type of and the nature of the leadership in Myanmar because of any future peace talks and confidence building measures that we are proposing in various discussions. The audience, thank you once again for being with us, and I apologize for a late start today. We had some technical issues in the beginning, but we recovered and we continued our journey. I thank you again for being with us in 2025. And we have achieved a lot of things, I would say. And in the future, also, we are moving ahead with our partnership with FSDS. And you have seen two of the senior leadership from the group here today staying with us and joining us. And we are heading for two important engagements in January 6th and 8th. So please tune in, and we'll be very happy to have you with us. And on behalf of the Conflict and Resilience Research Institute, I would like to say a very happy New Year 2026. And whatever we have learned in 2025, hopefully we are going to implement some of them in the future, so that in the betterment of peace, justice, and good earth in regards to the overall peace and the earth. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a nice rest of the evening wherever you are. And from here in Winnipeg, goodbye and good night. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.